On tonight's episode of the CHGO Cubs Related Podcast, the Cubs split 2 games at Wrigley Field with the Milwaukee Brewers. Pete Crow-Armstrong hits a milestone homer, and we'll get you ready for the series over the weekend with the Mariners on this episode of the CHGO Cubs Related Podcast. This is the CHGO Cubs Related Podcast. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. We are coming to you on Thursday. It is June 19th. And Brendan, the Cubs split 2 with the Milwaukee Brewers. The game on Wednesday postponed due to rain, doubleheader coming in August. So the Cubs, a 5-3 winner on Tuesday and a 7-8 loser on Thursday. A split. How are you feeling about the first place Chicago Cubs, Brendan?
First place Chicago Cubs. First place by a lot, too, Corey. The 2020 PCA led Chicago Cubs. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, so the Brewers, obviously Brewers and Cubs, neutral these last few days. It looks like the Cardinals are going to split a doubleheader with the White Sox today. So it's going to be 2 teams that are 5.5 games behind you. But all things considered, here in mid-ish June, a 5.5 game lead sounds mighty nice to me, Brendan. So we will, of course, we are here on Thursday, technically post-game for the 8-7 or 7-8 loss. But we'll talk about the 2 games with the Brewers. We're going to talk about the series over the weekend with the Pirates, and we'll look ahead to the Mariners series. Plenty to talk about here, Brendan. But I think the place to start is, you had mentioned when we were kind of talking about how we wanted to go through things, just kind of like setting the table of where we are and where guys are. As far as individual topics later in the show, we are going to get into the 2020 man, Mr. Pete Crow-Armstrong. We are going to talk about Matt Shaw, some of the adjustments he's made, his overall performance. Take a look at the catching position. Obviously, it's been tough sledding for Carson Kelly. We'll talk about bullpen. And then I think in particular, not necessarily looking ahead to the deadline, but a couple of key movement dates that the Cubs are going to have. The deadline is one of them. And then soon you're probably going to get Porter Hodge back. You're probably going to get Shota Imanaga back. And there will be subsequent moves, kind of talking about what we expect there. But just generally, Brendan, kind of, again, setting the table, 45-29, first in the National League Central, one of the best records in all of baseball. 5.5 game lead on both the Brewers and the Cardinals. And just running it, I'm going to run through the lineup today, batting average, and on OPS, just to center our conversation.
Before you do that, how good does it feel to say that record in mid-June? 45-29, exceeding our expectations. The numbers you're about to read, half the team is overproducing their projections. This is really, frankly, a 90th percentile outcome in mid-June. We're living one of the most, in my fandom's lives, one of the more surprising seasons. They were projected as an 84-win team by more than one system other than Pacoda. It's remarkable we're talking about this team like this.
Absolutely. And before I go any further, I sometimes as a host, I mess things up. I do need to mention that this podcast is driven by Toyota, Let's Go Places, and Bet365. Whatever the moment, it is never ordinary. Use code CHGO365 at sign up. Little inside baseball production slip for you. But there you go. I'm good on my word. it feels great, Brendan. And, being at the game, I was at the game this afternoon at beautiful historic Wrigley Field. First of all, what an environment, right?
Oh.
Like, we talk about it, I try to avoid the like Cubs fans are the best, we're special. But like, even down 8-3, that entire ballpark feels like they were going to come back, and is every 2 strike count, every full count up, like, let's go, we're getting up again. It's a really awesome environment.
Well, you can sense it too from the broadcast. It just seems so noticeably different. The crowd reaction on instances where, Wrigley's always in tune, but you can tell this year the stakes are a little bit higher. Milwaukee's in town. You can tell, you can feel it.
I really thought they were going to win the game after that guy climbed the net. I don't know how much they showed of that on the marquee broadcast, but the crowd was going nuts for that guy climbing the net to get the bat.
No, they showed it. They showed
and
it.
then when they tried to kick him out, and I mean, when he came back, there was a standing ovation for that guy.
It's good vibes.
It's great. It was a really fun environment, but it's been a very special start to the year. And I know, a game like today is frustrating. They fall short in the comeback. You really wanted it. They had their chances. But all in all, this team has played really good baseball, and they find themselves in a really good spot as far as the division and just their playoff chances and things like that. And you and I have talked about it before, but like year to year, those things are all kind of random variables. Like if you were an NL West team right now, you wouldn't feel as comfortable. But right now, like the division they're in, the way they've played, they find themselves in a relatively comfortable, not safe, but, okay spot for right now. So let's go through the lineup, and then we're going to talk about PCA, but sometimes just a good, like, check-in with this stuff. Let's just check in on how they're doing, and it sort of centers the conversation. So your leadoff man, Ian Happ, 246, 730. Kyle Tucker, 279, 898, so almost 900 for your man Kyle Tucker. Seiya Suzuki, 256, 839. Pete Crow-Armstrong, 270, 867. Dansby Swanson, 244, 729. 729 OPS, Brendan, which is crazy because I've been told by a lot of people that he cannot hit. So that
we're 2.0.
Yeah. Another homer on Thursday afternoon. Michael Busch, 262, 852 OPS. Carson Kelly,
852. Wow.
Yeah. Carson Kelly, 238, 805 on OPS. Nico Horner, 288, 688 OPS. And Matt Shaw, 225, 624.
Your
OPS.
guy.
So just some, numbers keep in mind as we get into the weeds of this conversation. It's always nice just to have a little context on what these guys have done on the whole. But let's start with Pete Crow-Armstrong, our menace, our 23-year-old son in the outfield, just creating chaos for the game of baseball. On Thursday, hits his 20th home run, Brendan, and I have a few thoughts. I'm going to start with the milestones of it all. So he becomes the fastest and youngest player in Chicago Cubs history to reach the 2020 mark. Fastest, he beats Sammy Sosa, and youngest, 23 years old. Sammy Sosa was the person he passed. And in baseball, it is the 4th fastest 2020 season ever. Like ever. Eric Davis, 46 games. Jose Canseco, 68 games. Fernando Tatis Jr., 71 games. Tied for 4th now. Pete Crow-Armstrong and Ken Williams, 73 games. That's Ken Williams from 1922, not the former president of the Chicago White Sox.
Oh, okay.
In case you were wondering.
I was really wondering, not Corey.
So, first of all, anytime you're in the conversation, you're passing Sammy Sosa for any record in Chicago Cubs history. That is a significant milestone. And you're now up there in major league history as far as the type of stuff that you're doing. And look, man, like anytime you're on a list with Eric Davis, Jose Canseco, Fernando Tatis Jr. Now, you don't want to be on certain lists with Jose Canseco and Fernando Tatis Jr., but you throw Eric Davis in there.
Listen, it's modern day. If it happens, it happens.
Cody probably is like, yeah, give PCA all the steroids in the world. But sometimes you don't want to be on a list with those guys. This is a great list to be on. Major league history that Pete Crow is, out there doing. I shout out to my brother. My brother, for whatever reason, calls him only Pete Crow. That's it.
I
So
like it.
sometimes that's in my
It's unique.
head.
Pete
It's
Crow.
just Pete Crow.
I like it.
I'm like, and continue. But separately from the milestone of it all, right? The fastest, youngest Cub ever to have a 2020 season. Like, if you had told me earlier in the year that Pete Crow-Armstrong was going to hit 20 homers, all that you figured he was going to do on defense and base running, I would have been like, wow, no way. Like, that's amazing. Brendan, it's June.
No, it's nuts. And dude,
It's not even July.
if you look at his PECOTA projections going into the year, this is what they projected. They projected 33 stolen bases. He's almost there. They projected 15 home runs. Well, he's already done that. They projected 2.4 WAR. He's nearly doubled the WAR. It is not even the end of June. As you said, it's mid-June. What we're seeing is beyond insane. Whatever you say, whatever I say is not going to contextualize what we're seeing. We had this conversation off air. What is the most like comparison that fits his start? And I can't find one. Like maybe the most exciting player since Sammy Sosa. I mean, not Javi was exciting. KB 2016 was an MVP caliber year, but the age, the fashion in which he's doing this, the projections, the hype, the status that goes with it. This is the most exciting start for a Cubs hitter I can remember since like Sammy Sosa, and it is not crazy to even say that.
Yeah. So one more from the great Christopher Kamka, who does great stat work. He is also the first Cub in history to reach this 2020 mark before the All-Star break. I mean, really just astounding stuff. I mean, we're talking like franchise MLB records that this guy is smashing.
It's franchise altering. He's on pace for 9 wins above replacement, dude.
Yeah.
Like an all-time great season.
And it's one of those things too. This was a nice sort of contrast to Tuesday night, like not contrast, but just sort of putting it all together. Like Tuesday night, he takes over the game basically in what ultimately was a 5-minute span, making a, potentially game-saving catch that had a 5% catch probability, and then ripping a 450-foot homer off of Jackson Churio's name on the scoreboard. It was 5 minutes of real time.
You even saying that's just absurd.
It's
like,
amazing.
What an absurd statement.
But then today, it doesn't end up being they end up losing the game. So it sort of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit outside of course, the milestones. But that put the Cubs up, in that game. And it was off a guy that this team and the league doesn't hit.
Yeah.
So for him to go up there and early in this one, give them the lead and hit a homer off of Peralta, who I think came into the game with like a 2.5 ERA. The Cubs have had a load of trouble with him over the years. Like, I don't know what you say. I don't know what else you can say about the guy. The other night hits a homer. That's off a lefty. Today, it's off one of the better pitchers in baseball. Like, I'm like speechless. I really am sort of speechless. It's June, Brendan.
It's June. He's doubling his projections. It's exceeding every single person's expectations twofold. It's insane to think. And the one standout trait from PCA, if I'm watching these games, the marquee broadcast is all over them, all the attention, the fans in the bleachers, the shots, you don't see the broadcast, but the shots to the kids when PCA is up. This is cementing fandoms.
Oh, no question.
This is like, we had our Sammy Sosa, we had our Derek Lees, right? The last generation had Javi Baez and KB in that World Series core. This is literally ushering in a new fan culture, and he's leading it, and he's one of the most exciting players, not just in Cubs history, literally recent history, but just in all of the league, dude. It's unbelievable that the Cubs are fortunate to have someone like this in their system.
Well, and you said, I don't see it on the broadcast, but you do sense this in real life. And I think if, shout out to everybody in our YouTube chat here. We're happy to have you here on a Thursday night. See some of our regulars, Evil Wax, always good to see you. You see it when you go to the ballpark, like these last several years. And we talked about it when they needed the star, and we're going to hit our first ad break in 20 seconds here. But like, there were so many years where like obviously for a while it was the core. You saw all those jerseys, but then the core was gone and you still only kind of saw those jerseys. And you were kind of missing that, like, who's the face of this team? Who is the person that everybody gravitates to? Almost every game now, there's a group of kids or a family or something sitting in front of me, and they are dialed in.
How can you not?
Where is Pete? When does Pete bat again? You can sense it, even just sitting in the crowd. It's really amazing, and it's something that this team was really missing. And for a guy to be doing this at 23 years old and kind of captivating the city and hopefully the league, it's what we've been missing on this team and what we needed. So we could talk about Pete the whole episode.
We might,
but we'll come back, probably talk about something else, but maybe we'll just keep gushing on Pete. But we're going to hit our first ad break here, and then we'll be back to talk more about your first place Chicago Cubs.
Okay, Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensaries, your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. It's your one-stop shop for all your cannabis needs. Sunnyside has an expertly curated menu with over 100 strains to choose from, plus easy online ordering and in-store pickup. It's Illinois' favorite dispensary with locations in the city from Wrigleyville to River North to the suburbs in Champaign, South Beloit, and more. And if you're just starting now, Sunnyside has expert guidance and brands we know you'll love, like Good News and Mindy's. And we'll know you love Cresco and Florical's incredible quality and consistent products. Visit Sunnyside.shop for Bright Buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions do apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, Bright Buys every day, only for 21 and over medical card holders. And for existing users, use promo code CHGO for 50% off one Cresco Labs brand item. The CHGO 50 for one Cresco Labs brand item. Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake is kicking off summer with big savings all month long. Come in today to shop the summer sales event and drive home with $10,000 off MSRP on new Chevy models. Check out their selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000 with one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. You're sure to find the perfect vehicle for you. Plus, Ray's price promise lets you shop confidently because the price you see is the price you pay. Go see for yourself. Visit our partners at their convenient location right now on Route 12 in Fox Lake. And don't miss out on their summer sales event going on all month long. For $10,000 off MSRP on new Chevy models, shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
All right, Brendan, back with you. Do we have more on Pete? I don't know.
What can we say? I'm a little distracted by my incredible performance over there, but you know what? It's okay. We'll keep going.
Yeah. I mentioned it the other night when I was in studio with Cody and Patrick, and we've talked about this before, but it's a franchise changing performance that you're seeing from Pete. And even coming into the year, we asked these questions like, well, what if Matt Shaw breaks out and takes over third base? What if Michael Busch continues what he's doing? All these questions. And one of them was like, what if Pete continues what he was doing in the second half last year and just sort of evolves into this super form of the prospect that we all dreamed on? You're watching it. Yeah. Like the what if is happening, and the way it transforms the franchise. I said this the other night, like how they act about it is something that I can't answer right now. I don't know if Tom is going to say, well, hey, we have a young star. We don't need to pay for an older one. We're making them ourselves. Or if he says, hey, we have a pre-arb superstar, that means we can give the money to someone like Kyle Tucker and build this sick core because we're developing some of it ourselves. How they act, I don't know. But that question, you're not able to ask if you don't have the young superstar doing something like this. And it should make them more willing to build the team around Pete because he is a pre-arb guy. Like it's just an astounding thing for this franchise and how it changes their outlook as a whole for the next several years.
It changes their outlook maybe for the trade deadline too. We'll get into it, but when you have someone consolidating potentially 8 wins in one position, and then maybe 6 wins in right field, Kyle Tucker, and boosting value at first base with Michael Busch, with Dansby and Nico. It allows you maybe to be a little bit more patient with your third base prospect. It allows you maybe to be a little bit more patient with Ben Brown or some of the back end guys in the bullpen. And it allows you maybe to, instead of devoting money to shoring up positional depth, well, most of that money, if not all the money, can go to the starting pitching staff, can go to the bullpen, and more than likely it will be spread out. But just the value in the immediate future, as soon as the next few weeks in this trade deadline, to have Pete's projection take that next step is astounding, as you said. And it does open up a lot of flexible options for Jed Hoyer in the front office to consider.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about somebody other than Pete.
Do we have to?
No, not really, but
Okay.
It is a lot of fun. Let's talk about some of the other guys on the offense. I want to talk about some of the roster moves coming, but while we're talking about the offense, we might as well just sort of, finish up here on some of the thoughts on the offense. And I do want to talk about Matt Shaw. We might as well make that our Taking the Temp segment of the week. And that, of course, is presented by your trusted local experts at Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That is fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. And we are going to take the temp on one Matt Shaw. So Matt Shaw, Brendan, I think represents a really interesting conundrum for the Cubs, if you want to call it that. And the conundrum is, as we've talked about with some of these other guys, you are weighing development and growth and patience with this team is in first place. This team is trying to stave off the Cardinals, the Brewers, both at 5.5 back. I think the Reds are 6.5 backs. They're really trying to stave off everybody but the Pirates. And it becomes somewhat of a difficult balance. So the thing for Matt Shaw is overall numbers on the season. This includes both stints at the MLB levels: 225 average, 299 on base, 624 OPS. But when you look in some of the smaller samples, last 15 games, a 185 batting average with a 214 on base and a 296 slug. Last 7 games, which of course is only 24 at bats, but just, looking at some of the smaller samples, 0.083 batting average, 154 on base, 125 slug. And just from, the eye test, anecdotally from watching all of these games, had a nice opposite field, drive earlier this week, that looked good, more of what we saw when he's been at his most successful, but an awful lot of weak contact, Brendan. And the conundrum here, I think it's two separate conversations, right?
Maybe
the belief in him as a prospect long-term and what the 2025 team needs now. And I agree with our friend Evil Wax. Like, I think long-term, he'll be fine. His defense has been great. You and I have talked about that. I think we talked about that last week. But it's been tough sledding at the plate. And when the catching position has come back to earth, it's, do you need more offense at third base, or are you continuing to be patient with Matt Shaw here is my question for you.
Just to preface, I see a lot of outs above average references to Matt Shaw because right now it's in the negatives and it's in the 30th percentile of overall value. I will point out that stat, while informative, takes a long time to really even out. Dansby Swanson 2 weeks ago, his outs above average was in the 35th percentile. Today it's in the 80th. So it can change in a matter of just 2 weeks. So I wouldn't put so much emphasis on that in the short term unless you see extreme changes. I'm talking first percentile or 100th percentile. When you're in between the 20th and 70th, it's like, flip a coin at that point. The eye test for Matt Shaw's defense is spectacular. I clipped literally 30 plays. I kid you not, exactly 30 plays of his best defensive outs. It's exceeding everyone's expectations.
Agree.
Now, the offense. It is going to be interesting how they weigh this because right now, The offense is below league average, and that's also passing the eye test. He does not look good at the plate. The Cubs have 25 million underneath that first tier of the luxury tax. Now, we believe they're going to go over the tax, as any World Series contender should go over the tax, but it does set the baseline of what they could be dealing with in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Do they want to spend money on shoring up third base, or do they want to go out and get not just one starting pitcher, but 2 starting pitchers and multiple relievers? We don't know. So 30 seconds, I want to show a graph here for Matt Shaw. There's good and there's bad, okay? So over the last few weeks, there's been 2 adjustments that have caught my eye. Number one, you see it in the batting stance. He's more upright. He looks more relaxed, more comfortable. That's some people have been describing him. But you're also seeing that reflected in the data. So his swing angle is more conducive to fly balls lately. He's swinging at a steeper angle. This is a new metric from Baseball Savant. It's actually very informative. It actually shows why PCA is so good, because his swing angle is so steep for someone his size. So post demotion in green versus blue, you see Shaw, he's swinging steeper. Okay. That kind of matches the mechanical adjustment. He's also swinging faster. Okay. It also matches some of the eye tests. He seems more comfortable, more convicted. But despite those 2 traits, where he's swinging at a steeper angle and swinging faster, the exit velo as an average, it's the same. Now, there's a little bit more, blips where he's going the opposite field, slightly more showing, slightly more pop. But overall, you're not seeing the bulk changes translate yet. So the question that the front office is weighing, and what you're bringing up, Corey, is how long do you want to wait for Shaw to get to that point? And also, do you want to risk that it may not happen this year or in a timeline that makes you comfortable as a World Series contender? Now, for me, it's a wait and see game. This is one of those instances where 2 weeks from now, it's a different conversation, because you are seeing some of the underlying data show that he has made changes. It just is not translated to success yet, and it's unclear if it will. But it's one of those situations, Corey, where I don't think we have the answer yet, nor does the front office. But if it does continue at this pace, it does open the question of how much money you want to spread out to the entire roster versus shoring it up in the division.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason I even bring this up again, long term, I'm a buyer on Matt Shaw, and I agree with some of the sentiments in the chat that these things take time. Plenty of Cubs prospects, we've gone through this. PCA is one of them. Javi Baez was one of them. It doesn't happen right away for all of these guys. Not everybody is Chris Bryant, that they just show up and they're winning Rookie of the Year and MVP and kind of rolling through that. As everybody sort of predicted. But part of the reason I bring that up is if this team was looking toward the deadline, and you're asking the question, do they need another bat? There's only so many places to put said bat, right? Dansby's your shortstop, Nico's your second baseman, Michael Busch is your first baseman. Maybe you find another platoon man, and I have a comment on that as well. But those 4 other spots belong to Ian Happ, Pete Crow-Armstrong, Kyle Tucker, and Seiya Suzuki. So there's only so many places where if you wanted another bat that it would even fit. And third base is one of them that they looked at in the offseason. And maybe it would be a position that they decide to even just inject someone to mix and match with Matt Shaw. Again, separate discussion from where I believe Matt Shaw will be long-term. The second thought on that is it's a real bummer the way that the Justin Turner thing has played out, because by all accounts, he is an extreme clubhouse guy. And it has been, I don't want to say a key to PCA's success, but they've written that, there's been a lot written about how he's really a resource for these young guys, and someone like PCA especially, kind of break down pitchers, break down his, routine and, his stance and all these other things, which is great. And you want that type of stuff in the clubhouse, but they really needed that right-handed hitter that could hit lefties and potentially that 5 spot in the order. and they just don't have it. And like, it doesn't look like it's necessarily like turning a corner anytime soon for Justin Turner. He had a good second half last year, like got hot, but how
You're just
long the
not
Cubs are
seeing
going to
it.
hold out on that, it's a little difficult to see. So that's primarily one of the issues that they're going to face here, and it does square with Matt Shaw. So we can continue this conversation when we get back from our second ad break, but want to hop to our second ad break here, and then we'll keep talking Matt Shaw. Do they need another bat, et cetera? And I want to look at the catching situation as well.
Okay, just like your favorite team needs a home field advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. And Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all been to those big box stores. You wander endless aisles, and somehow you're hauling all these materials home, looking for an installer and coordinating everything just by yourself. These big box stores might have a flooring department, but the person helping you with flooring may have been doing sinks yesterday or could be stocking shelves the other day. Empire Today lives and breathes only flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way. It is a whole different ballgame. Get precise measurements taken and have all your questions answered so there's no surprise. To schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. CHGO listeners can get a $350 discount when using promo code CHGO. Yes, you heard that right. A $350 discount with code CHGO. Restrictions do apply. Visit empiretoday.com/CHGO for full details. Cub fans, if you're thinking about upgrading your drive this season, Toyota's 2025 lineup is definitely worth a look. There's the RAV4. It's versatile, reliable, and always ready for a little adventure. There's the Grand Highlander, plenty of room, super comfortable, great for families or long road trips. And if you're looking for efficiency, the Corolla's got you covered. Smart, stylish, easy on gas. If you need something tougher, the Tacoma brings serious durability. And finally, the Camry, sleek and packed with performance. So visit your local dealer and find yours today. You can check out the full lineup at toyota.com or stop by your local Chicagoland Toyota dealership. Toyota, let's go places. And become a CHGO diehard and upgrade your fandom today. Get access to our exclusive written content, a free t-shirt, plenty of discounts and future merch and events. Go to allchgo.com for the latest info. We cannot wait to connect with you on an ever greater level. All right. Looks like it's just me. Corey's connection, he's back, folks.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I just lose your audio sometimes. It's
That's
really
fine.
weird.
Well, you sound
All
fine.
All right. Sorry about that, everybody.
I mean, you missed my spectacular 2-minute advertisement.
You're a pro. I already knew that. All right. So continuing on the Matt Shaw situation. Well, not situation. That makes it sound much more dire. But yeah, just getting back to my last thought, like the Turner thing is a real bummer. It's just a role that they really need. And look, like you want Michael Busch, PCA, to continue developing against left-handed pitching, and they're both different in that regard. But they brought they brought Turner in specifically like for that role, to spell Michael Busch and give them a solid like 110 WRC plus kind of thing. Against lefties in particular, and they're just not getting that. And so again, like what they decide to do, I'm not really sure, but I feel like with the way the lineup takes a step back against lefties and the catching position without Amaya really coming back down to earth, and I want to transition to that as well, like I feel like they're going to need another bat somewhere, at least, even if it's just someone who platoons or, gets in there to spell someone.
Well, when do you want to make the decision now? Because like we've been having this conversation for weeks. It's June 19th. Yeah. So we're still.
Are you talking about Turner in particular or just in general?
I mean, because I don't like to me, I feel like I'm different than other Cub fans right now. It's still too early for me to be discussing these conversations of like, sure. All right, do you go and make a trade now? Do you DFA Turner now?
Question. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't like, in a way, what we're talking about is almost potentially moot in 3 weeks. It relies specifically on how Matt Shaw looks in 3 weeks. It relies on whether or not Justin Turner is going to get out of this. Yeah. But the question I want to pose is, well, are you willing to wait even now 3 weeks? Do you want Jed to go out now and address that now in a market?
In so much as that's possible.
if it's even possible.
Well, I think, look, I agree with you. It definitely all takes time. And, you can feel very differently about a player. If Justin Turner had a solid week where he was really driving the ball and like looking like somewhat of the version that we saw even just last year, you'd be a little more comfortable in that. And like, maybe you're like, oh, okay. Like he just needed to like get it under him. Right. Like, I'm not sure, but I think the reason it's not so much that it's like a pressing issue right now, but it's just kind of looking ahead to what the conversations are going to be or things to kind of keep an eye on. It's definitely too early for those conversations, but as we kind of take stock of, yep, they're in first place, yep, they're great. Like there's only certain areas. That's kind of why I say like, certain guys, like they're going to play. There's only certain things to discuss, right? Like,
when the team
Kyle Tucker's great. Like what, PCA is a superstar. There's only so much to say on that.
Every 3 weeks we can have a conversation about Dansby and Ian Happ sucking, so I'll give it 2 more weeks and we can circle back to that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's just something to keep an eye on. I do want to talk about the catching situation. And again, like, this is one where hopefully Miguel Amaya comes back. I saw him posting stories. Looks like he's working out at some of the Cubs facilities. I think it was Mesa. But, good to see him kind of trying to work his way back. It's an interesting thing, Brendan, as Carson Kelly has basically been as bad for the last like month plus as he was good the first month plus. It's like sort of astounding the way that he has gone to like the absolute peak, had like a 2000 OPS for a month, and now he got a hit on Thursday, but really can't buy a hit. And you look at some of these numbers, like last 30 games for him, it's 105 at bats, a 181 average with a 252 on base and a 267 slug. You take that down to his last 15 games, which is 50 at bats, 140 batting average, 189 on base, and a 220 slugging percentage. So just getting, north of 400 there. And even worse in his last 7 games, 24 at bats, just 3 hits, a 125 average, 192 on base, and a 167 slug. Yikes. Talk about like the regression monster coming for him. It came for him and it ate him alive. But, to be expected, right? He was never going to stay at those numbers, just hoping he can find some middle ground in that and just be somewhere nicely between these two absolute extremes. And certainly like it's valuable that they got that play from him for the time that they did. For as bad as it's been recently, you got Barry Bonds level production, even if it was only for a month, that matters. Like we're talking about, everybody's yelling at Dansby hitting in the 5-hole. Like that wasn't as much of a problem when Carson Kelly was doing this because you were getting this insane production. So that really matters. It was very important to them in the beginning of the year when they were beating all those good teams, the Dodgers, the Padres, like all those games. Carson Kelly was a huge reason they were performing that well on offense for that stretch. So like you'll take that. And if it's a struggle, like from here on, okay. But I think it all pairs. Like all of a sudden at the beginning of the year, Brendan, the 7, 8, 9 spots, the Cubs led baseball in runs driven in from the bottom third of their order.
Well,
and now
you get PCA there.
Sure. Yeah. But now as things have reshuffled, like Matt Shaw is a rookie who's developing and you want to be patient with. Carson Kelly, Reese McGuire are, have kind of turned into a more like defense first catching tandem. And, it's just when we look at ways to optimize or change this offense, there's only so many places to do it. But I did just at least want to acknowledge, I don't have even a big takeaway on Kelly. You need Miguel Amaya back. I always thought, even in the beginning of the year, that Miguel Amaya's development was the bigger story there. It was obvious Carson Kelly wasn't going to keep that up, as fun as that was. But Miguel Amaya looking really good on offense in a more realistic output sense, that was the bigger story. And it's very unfortunate that he got hurt. I just wanted to acknowledge that it has been really bad from Carson Kelly.
Yeah, and you have to update the whole storyline. Yeah. I mean, Evil Wax brought up a good point. He is playing more, He's being
Yes.
exposed to pitching
Yes.
matchups he otherwise would not have been exposed to. Also, he was ill for a week. We saw him with some nagging injuries, getting hits with foul balls. You never know. In a small sample like this of 4 or 5 weeks, things can just percolate up to the surface and affects your performance. Who knows? Maybe in 3, 4 weeks that does return, but in like the whole gradient of improvement possibilities, the catching position is not going to be addressed. Like this is our catching trio. It's Reese McGuire, Miguel Amaya, and Carson Kelly.
Yeah. So it's okay. Again, like this is just, I do find myself feeling like, and again, like you said, a lot can change. Maybe they call guys up and give them some opportunities, etc. But I do find myself thinking like, I think they're going to need, if Turner doesn't show you anything, you're going to need another bat. It doesn't have to be someone you're slotting into the middle of the order. It doesn't have to be this like massive thing they go out and do at the deadline, but you got to have, Birdie and Bruhan, they are who they are. They're here to provide certain skills.
And one of them will likely be gone in 3 months.
They're somewhat redundant. Yeah.
Somewhat.
But it's nice to have the speed. And like, Birdie, he gets a start like once a month at this point. Like, good luck to him. I mean, I saw him in the lineup the other day and, people were frustrated at I think he went 0 for 4 or whatever it was. And it's like, dude, good luck to him. Like, he barely plays. They throw him in there. Like, good luck, dude. Yeah. But, he's played solid enough defense. Him and Bruhan both have the speed if they want to use it. You saw both of them come in as pinch runners in the game on Thursday. And that's this, those are skills that you need. But between the three of them, somebody has to be able to hit. Like, Craig Counsell needs to be able to shuffle in another hitter, whether that's at DH or first base or spelling somebody at third base. And the lack of any offense from those guys just isn't going to work. Like, he needs another hitter, probably somebody to hit lefties, because your lineup is slightly neutralized against left-handed pitching.
We'll see what happens in the next 3 to 4 weeks, right? The two possibilities where we can solve that is Matt Shaw and Justin Turner. Can they emerge and solve that? We'll see. But regardless, having $25 million underneath that first tier of the tax, assuming they're even going to go over, they have so much financial flexibility. They have the prospect capital to pair for that. And they have the flexibility with all these guys outperforming their projections, where you have 5, 6, 7 WAR spread out across literally 3 to 4 positions. The possibilities are endless. So for me, when I take a step back, I don't do the calculus of like who fits. I see in the chat Eugenio Suarez, Ryan McMahon, right? I can hear Pat Hughes in my ear right now, Eugenio in a Cubs uniform. Yeah, that's fine. All makes sense. Honestly, it really does. I don't know how the Diamondbacks will be looking like in 3 weeks. They're at 500 now, but we'll see. You just don't know.
I don't know. And that's also one of those things. Don't we know the obvious outcome here? The Cubs would trade for Suarez, who would look like he never hit in Wrigley Field in his life. That's just the obvious.
I can't do it.
The idea that a Cub killer would come over, right, and be able to do that, I just don't believe it.
No.
No,
thanks. But there's so many milestones to hit, time milestones to hit for the entire league. There's so many teams on the fringe of competitiveness that they need to iron out. I mean, look where the Cubs were 2 years ago. Had Talkman not made that diving catch, Jeimer Candelario may have been traded elsewhere. So a lot of decisions have to be made within 2 weeks of the deadline, not 6 weeks of the deadline. So I'm going to sit here. I'm going to dial in on what Matt Shaw's doing. Look at those adjustments. I'm going to enjoy PCA's superstardom. I'm going to revel in having Kyle Tucker in right field and watching Dansby and Nico continue to turn double plays and have this just work its way out. The natural conclusion is going to happen. That is 100% convincing for me.
And look, to be clear, right? Like, my overall stance on this team is thrilled. It's a joyous time going to Wrigley Field. They're in first place. They've been one of the best.
Is that too optimistic? Do you think that's too much of an optimistic look?
They've been doing a lot right. Look, all good teams have their problems. The Cubs are not unique in that they have any flaw. They're not unique that they lose series or slump. I saw the Yankees scored 7 runs in 7 games. But if you went on Cubs Twitter, only the Cubs are a good team that doesn't score runs for periods at a time, which actually means they're not good, right? To some of these people, they've been a very good team. They have some flaws. They have some things that you'd like to optimize better, and we'll see where they are when the time comes to try to do those things. Yeah. But that's going to be the nature of most seasons, like most seasons, most teams. So we're going to hit our final ad break here. And before we do that, though, I do want to mention that this is CHGO Spirit Week. We've teamed up with Big Brothers Big Sisters. And according to our wonderful producer, Steven here, we did hit our goal to raise $10,000 between the All City Network for life-changing mentorships. If you'd like to continue and donate, you can visit bbbs.org/allcity. And that is, again, for our fundraiser with Big Brothers Big Sisters. It's a wonderful partnership and a wonderful organization. So if you are so inclined to donate, you can do so there. And with that, we will hit our third and final ad break here. And when we come back, we will talk about pitching and some roster moves that are looming.
Overpaying for property taxes is something far too many Cook County residents are doing, and you don't have to be one of them. In Cook County, appeal windows vary by township, close up rapidly, and are very difficult to win. Let Ownwell's experts ensure you're prepared for when it counts. Sign up in under 3 minutes, and their team of local experts and cutting-edge technology can start you save money with no upfront cost. If I own property in Cook County, I'd be overwhelmed. Those tax bills can hit $12,000 a year, and appealing is a mess. If I had not appealed before, I might have lost thousands of dollars, but hypothetically, if I used Ownwell, could have signed up in minutes, gotten the savings estimate, and let them handle it all. Less stress, fair taxes, maybe even money left to splurge on a kitchen upgrade. In Cook County, Ownwell has a 25% contingent fee, meaning you only pay if your property taxes are reduced. Save money on your Cook County property taxes with Ownwell. Sign up in less than 3 minutes and start your appeals today at ownwell.com. That's OWNWELL.com. A non-negotiable before a first date, say first interview, deodorant, especially with summer right around the corner. One thing that boosts confidence fast is Mando whole body deodorant. It's safe to use anywhere. Yes, anywhere. Pits, cracks, thigh folds, belly buttons, you name it, you can use it. They have bourbon leather, which is a favorite scent of many. I love the scent. It's clean, subtle, it's fresh. Mando stands out because it was created by a doctor who knew body odor was being misdiagnosed, and it works. It's clinically proven to control odor better than soap alone. You can get Mando Starter Pack, which is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, and free shipping. As a special offer, new customers get $5 off the starter pack with our exclusive code, CHGO. Use code CHGO at mando.com, SHOPMANDO.com. And please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
He's a pro, folks. And as I was mentioning, our fundraiser with Big Brothers Big Sisters, do want to shout out our guy, Patrick Norton, made a nice $50 donation. We appreciate you, Patrick. It was fun being in studio with Patrick the other night. It's my first time in the studio in a while.
Yeah.
Normally I'm here. Normally I'm here doing the show.
Is that why they're winning, because you've just been out?
No,
I don't know. You back in.
I don't. Well, they won when I was there the other night.
Oh,
they didn't win when I'm here talking to you today. So
don't scream at me. It's not my fault.
Watch it.
Okay.
All right. So I want to talk pitching, and I think, sometimes we dive deep on these guys. I think for these last couple starts, I don't know that I have like a ton to really deep dive on. I will say, Jameson Taillon had been on a really nice run, of his last 8 starts or so. I think he had an ERA that was somewhere around 2. Tons of quality starts. Didn't have it today. It was a little bit like batting practice for the Brewers there. And frustrating because, the Cubs had a really nice effort against Peralta. They got him out of there in 5 innings. Yeah. Closer game, maybe they push him to the 6th, but they had him up in the 80s, 90s pitches by the 5th inning there. So it was really nice work. 3 runs, 5 innings. That was a nice effort. But the pitching really put them in a hole between Taillon and then Genesis Cabrera, who sort of should have been out of it if PCA and Tucker had figured out how to catch that ball. But that's a tough one, kind of placed perfectly right between them. is what it is. Tyone's been really good for this team recently. And I think, as we discussed last week, like doing really well in the role that you need him to be in. But some stuff is looming. And that is Shota Imanaga has a rehab start on Friday. I would imagine if that goes well, we are not long from getting the Cubs ace at this point back into their rotation.
Craig Counsell said 2 starts in Iowa.
Okay. All right. Well, sure. Jordan in the chat says, love the show, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you,
Very nice
Jordan.
of you to say. Yeah. So we'll see when they actually pull the trigger on Shota, but it's soon. It's weeks, if not days, rather than anything longer than that. Porter Hodge looking good as well in his rehab stint. So those are the 2 imminent ones, and you're going to have to make some moves. I think, you watch the outing today, certainly feels like Genesis Cabrera, like even I don't think he's been awful. In a couple of these outings, kind of bad luck or bad defense, whatever. But, look, if you got to make tough decisions, like the guy giving up 3-run homers is probably going to be where you're going to look. And then, go from there. I've seen a lot of chatter for like Ryan Brazier as well. Velocity, not where it's been, where he's had his most success. And I think you look at some of those peripherals that are not particularly exciting, even if he has, I think, an ERA in the 2s, the K rate, the walk rate, and the velo, maybe something that they decide is not, at its most optimal level when they make these moves. But some other chatter, as we've certainly seen, and you and I have talked about this, like, what do they do with Ben Brown? Who is the person that Shota is replacing in this rotation when he comes back? So there's a lot of moving pieces. Those 2 are definitely coming back, and they're going to get big roles, right? Porter Hodge was, probably your best reliever coming into the season, and Shota Imanaga, you tell me if Justin Steele is your number 1 or Shota is your number 1, up to you, dealer's choice. But those are the imminent moves, and a lot of implications here, Brendan.
Yeah, I think the bullpen as a bulk has been one of the best in the league. They have the best ERA since early May. There's, from top to bottom, their entire cast has an ERA under 3.5. Even, as you mentioned, Brazier before yesterday, Genesis Cabrera had a 3.2 ERA. Presley had a 3.5 ERA. So they've been getting outs, but at the same time, those guys at the lower end of the bullpen, they don't get whiffs. So we're talking about Presley, we're talking about Brazier, Flexen, even late inning guy, Brad Keller. A lot of these guys don't get whiffs. So the question I'm always fascinated by is, well, how do you ensure that by August you have a cast together that is capable of getting more whiffs? Do you want to spread out your gambles now in June in hopes that by August that you have one of the guys who can get whiffs, or do you value outs now and hope that that light contact persists into August and reassess at the trade deadline for a whiff guy? That's why when I was thinking about this, we have Ryan Brazier, we have Ryan Presley, we have Cabrera. All those guys are DFA candidates. At the same time, Ben Brown's been bad. He's been volatile at times in unpredictable ways, and he has an option. So you could easily see, okay, well, let's kind of just change it up on Ben Brown quite significantly and send him to Iowa for 10 days. Let's look at Cabrera for 10 more days. Let's see how Brazier's velo comes back when he's a little bit more healthier in a consistent routine. What does Presley stuff really look like? And then 10 days becomes maybe 20 days. Maybe an injury pops up, right? Maybe Drew Pomeranz's back tightens up. Drew, go to the IL for 10 days. Okay. Well, all of a sudden, we have not DFA'd one person, and it's July 20th, and now we can make an informed decision. And by then, maybe it is more obvious, where it's like, all right, well, you know what, Cabrera, you're a DFA. Or maybe Presley implodes. It's like, oh, I knew it. Those walk and strikeout numbers were bad. You're gone. It's easy, I think, to really navigate through this. And it's a good situation, quite frankly, to be in.
Yeah, I think ultimately that's what I think they're going to try to do, right?
Yeah.
Like they're going to try to maximize the runway with some of these guys that don't have options or things like that as much as they can.
I mean, would you have thought that Bruhan and Birdie would be on the same team in June? I thought Bruhan was going to get DFA'd in March.
Yeah.
I'm shocked they even made it this far.
Yeah, like sometimes as you say, these things do just work themselves out.
do.
I'm intrigued with what they decide to do. I, have liked, and especially the lead that they have in the division sort of affords them some comfort with a lot of this stuff, because you don't take any day for granted. But when when a team is not breathing down your neck by a game, or you're not in second place or anything like that, you do have a minute to say, like, let us see what we have here. Let us take stock here and like really see. I like that they've given Ben Brown this run. And I like the sort of future implication of trying to continue developing a starter, a young starter, someone that could be in your rotation for years to come, et cetera. I am curious if they decide to let him continue working, on that changeup or whatever they want him to work on at AAA when Shota comes back. And there's a lot of ways to look at this.
I'm not even sure if it's a matter of working it out. Like, of course, you want to weigh development for these guys, but he's just not producing. So when you have Shota come back or Hodge comes back, like, there's an argument to be made that Brown is the least productive pitcher on the staff at the current moment, regardless of development.
Look, and it just sort of depends on how they're weighing a lot of these things. So just for what it's worth, against Seattle coming up here on Friday through Sunday, it's going to be Matthew Boyd, then Cade Horton, and then Colin Ray. And look, like, when Shota comes back, Shota's going to pitch every fifth day. Jamison Tyon's going to pitch every fifth day. Cade Horton is going to continue to pitch every fifth day. And Matthew Boyd is going to pitch every fifth day. Maybe at certain points they spread stuff out to keep some guys fresh. We've talked about this. These are things that are going to have to confront, but they may also just be seeing, like, press forward. And if Cade Horton's showing fatigue, we'll deal with it then. But, like, he's never done this before. Maybe he's just going to ride through it. So it really only leaves Ben Brown and Colin Ray, and you're kind of deciding between which of those guys. And I can see them in the short term, like, deferring to Colin Ray and just letting him continue to ride this. They're probably going to make a deadline acquisition for a higher end starter, and you let Ben Brown continue to develop without the pressure. And, look, like, at some point, right, you just need more consistency out of these guys. And that's where Brown has struggled, which, as we talked about last week, like, that's all right. He's 25. He's getting this opportunity, like, truly every fifth day. You're in this rotation. This is your role for the first time in his big league career. Like, there's going to be adjustments and things like that, but it's similar to the other conversations we have. Like, at some point, you have to weigh, like, development, winning now, and what just sort of is the optimal way for this team to press forward, trying to maintain their lead in this division. And
do you have a preference?
Oh man, I don't know, dude.
I mean, mine, I think just the change environment would be good for Brown. I do think you send him down 10 days, at minimum 10 days. See if that changes the thinking process, the routine, and then reevaluate. I do think that's the best path forward right now.
Perhaps, yeah. And we'll see if that's ultimately the way that they decide. And then as far as, the moves, I think your candidates are pretty clear. I think, to me, the top two right now are going to be Genesis Cabrera and Brazier. I know you're dead set on Ryan Presley, but
I'm not dead set on Presley.
I know. I understand, and I agree with you about the peripherals, but they're not going to move on from a guy that hasn't given up a run in a month and a half. Like, that's just not going to happen, especially a veteran they traded for, who they like in the clubhouse, etc. But that's, either way, the one thing that, aside from the moves that come with this, the real important thing is you're getting your best pitcher back. And you're getting the guy who was coming into the season to be your best reliever. Obviously, it was up and down for Porter to start this year. But, like, now with the success you've seen from Brad Keller, the success you've seen from Daniel Palencia, the elite duo of Chris Flexen and Drew Pomeranz, now you throw Porter Hodge in there, just more potential high leverage options for Craig, kind of play around with this stuff. And that can be huge for this team.
And with Porter Hodge, who, last point, the dual injury he had, the hip impingement and the oblique, Porter Hodge is one of the most important relievers on this team. Those two injuries, though, are unpredictable. There may be some growing pains. There may be some mechanical things that are not capable of being ironed out due to the injury. That may work itself out. He may need to spend more time in Iowa too. So I do believe these will be naturally worked out in one way or another. There's not going to be these rash DFAs that leaves them hanging out for more pitchers.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all we have for you guys this week. We're going to get out of here. As always, we appreciate your support. We'll keep an eye on Shota's start on Friday. I will be in studio again on Sunday with our guy Cody Del Mendo to recap the Mariners series. And then Brendan and I will be back with you next Thursday. We appreciate your support. And as always, go Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.